Mm. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the SuccessGrid podcast with your host Hussein Talib. My guest today is an amazing chef. His name is Dennis Littley. He is the founder and CEO of Ask Chef Dennis Productions, where he runs one of the most successful food blogs in the world. He has built a loyal following that uses his recipes and cooking tips in their homes, kitchens to feed their families and friends easy to make restaurant-style dishes for the fraction of the cost of eating out. Dennis, welcome to the Success Grade podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Awesome to have you here. So, as we were talking a little bit earlier, you have this combination of cooking, blogging, social media, like all blend, I guess, into one thing. Tell us first your story. How did you get into cooking and food in the first place?
Well, first of all, I love to eat, so it was a natural for me.
We all do.
Yeah. My mother was a nurse and she worked nights, so she would sleep during the day. So if I wanted to eat during the day, I started cooking for myself and I started understanding the whole concept. Later on in life, when I was, I think, in 8th grade, there was a guy on TV. His name was Graham Kerr. He was the Galloping Gourmet, and he had the first really, other than Julia Child, he had the first really food show on TV. And he was just so cool. And the people got so excited when they ate the food. It kind of resonated with me. It says, what a great way to make a living. So I didn't start right away. I was the jack of all trades, trying everything, but I ended up in the kitchen. That's where I felt the most comfortable. And it's where I think I could really shine. It was something I did well. I was not very artistic in any other way, but food gave me a way to create and to make people happy with what I created.
Yeah. I believe like people, I don't know how to cook, but I of course love to eat. But I think people who cook food, like they put something, I maybe from their heart or from their soul into the food that they are creating. Is that true or?
I think it is. I think there's a lot of love that goes into food, especially, when we've all had our grandmothers or mothers cook for us, and it always seems to taste better when they make it. It's just something a little extra they put in, and it's memories too that they're giving you when they cook. So, yeah, I think food is a lot of love that goes into it. And I always tell people, if you go into a restaurant and the servers and everybody's not happy, guess what? The kitchen's not happy. Your dinner's probably not going to be as good, because a happy chef is going to cook a better dish. He's going to put more into it, more of himself into it.
Yeah. Actually, maybe it's a little bit off topic, but I actually watched some episodes of, I think it's called Kitchen Nightmares. I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, every problem starts inside the kitchen. So if the kitchen is running well, everything. And I actually worked in McDonald's for a while. So if the kitchen is not running smoothly and well, everything outside the kitchen is not going good.
No.
So how did you, like, when you started like to learn to cook and you started your journey and coming now to blogging and your social media, why did you actually go into social media? Do you think that now it's like we are in 2022, I have to be there, or?
Oh yeah. You definitely have to be there. Well, I spent my life cooking in restaurants. I started having some health problems. My hands I needed carpal tunnel surgery on both. So I went into management and I started feeding executives. But every time I went into management, it would end up that the food was so bad that I'd end up back in the kitchen cooking. So I had a couple more carpal tunnel surgeries, and I finally wound up at a school. And at the school, I started cooking again because, again, the food was terrible, and I just worked through it. But I started a culinary program at the school. And when I started the culinary program, when I started teaching, it was all girls high school. There were 600 high school girls. When I started teaching them, I figured blogging was brand new. This was 2009. For mainstream blogging. It had been around since the late 1990s, but now people were looking at it, and regular people were getting involved, not just computer nerds. And I started blogging, and I thought it'd be a good resource for my students. Well, they never went to it, but people at the school went to it. And then I joined a group called Food Buzz in San Francisco. And it was an international group of food bloggers from, showing me food from all over the world, things I'd never seen before. And I was really getting excited again about cooking and excited about food. So I became a blogger then. And, I didn't jump right on social media. I wish I had, I'd have been farther ahead, or maybe it's better I didn't, because I worked harder at it. But, it was it was a lot to do with the food blogging aspect of it. And then, partway through it, I'm looking at social media and going, wow, all these people are already there. I have no following. I really have to catch up and work hard and learn. And about that time, Google Plus came out. It was Google's grand experiment in social media. It was to improve search. They didn't care less about social media, but I jumped on that and I became one of their power users in Philadelphia. And as a reward, they put me on their follow page with Anthony Bourdain, Rachel Ray, Martha Stewart, Emeril Lagasse. And here's Chef Dennis. And I'm like, I was blown away by that. And I started gathering a lot of momentum and a following. And that started me working harder. Once I saw that results, it started me working harder on other social medias. And then I really understood the importance of social media and how much it could do for a business, not just me, but any business. And I went around selling that to people, for free. I was telling them, you have to use social media. This is what you have to do. This is how important it is. The way we did business is gone. Social media has replaced conventional advertising to a degree. So, and social
like
media.
you're building a relationship with the people who used to watch chefs on TV, I guess. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was no connection at all. But now you're building relationship with your audience and followers. So when you started, like, did you have this kind of fear, or you might thought, whether in cooking or when you started blogging and social media, do you think that this is not going to work? I might fail. And what were your thoughts around that?
I never considered failure because the way I grew up and the way I was involved a lot in sports, and the way my coaches had taught me was, if you don't try something, you never succeed. If you don't give it everything you got, there's no way of knowing what you can do. And if it doesn't work, well, you get back up and you try again. So I had that kind of built in. So I never thought of failure, but I also never thought of how much success I would achieve. I dreamed of it. I was like, oh boy, can you imagine? I'll be the next best thing, but in my mind, that was a goal that I would never reach. I had no idea how successful I could become, but failure, no, it's never, honestly, it's never crossed my mind.
So you talked about success. Now with you are with this success with following on your blog, how do you feel about it? Like, does it make you feel some kind of special that you actually maybe achieved what you are looking to achieve, or are you looking still to achieve something more?
Oh, I'm still looking to achieve more. I have long passed any goals I ever had. But that doesn't mean I'm done. I just set higher goals now, and that's what I tell people in business is, you need a realistic goal. I remember my first realistic goal was if I could make $1,000 a month. That was my first goal. That wasn't where I wanted to end, but I thought that will let me live better than I'm living now, because I was retired at that point. So I said that will help me, supplement my income. And then it just started growing. And it's like in business, as a chef and in running restaurants and schools and things, with me, when I started to become successful, I fed into it and I worked harder because I wanted to be more successful. If I made $1,000, I wanted to make $10,000. If I made 10,000, I needed to make 100,000. So I just kept kicking it until I would just keep, until I would either hit my goal or burn out. And luckily, I have not burned out. So I just keep, applying myself, and it gets to be fun. doing what I do is a lot of fun because I make people happy. I help them learn how to cook. I help them put food on their tables. I help them make things they had no idea they could make and enjoy eating and bonding. But I also make money. And when you make money, that's fun.
Yeah. So do you, in general, do you recommend people, like if we are going to be talking business, a lot of people asking, should I start from my passion? Should I start what's working with the world? Should I not care about my passion? So do you think how important it is? Do you think that passion is important in building a business?
Oh, absolutely. You have to be passionate about it. And you have to have fun doing it because you have to work every day. I mean, I work a lot of times, 7 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day. I'll say to my wife, it says, I never expected it to be this good. And she goes, well, you work like a fool. Says you're in there all the time working. And, I guess so. But, again, I see results. If you don't see results from all the effort you put in, you're not going to want to do it. But if I'm seeing daily results, if I'm seeing weekly results, if things keep getting better and better, it kind of gives you that drive to keep working. But, if you don't have that passion to begin with, you're never going to be able to push yourself that much, because that passion is what's going to fuel you to want to work harder and longer, and hopefully smarter. Because, there's a lot of it is working smarter, not just harder. And sometimes it takes people to help you to learn that. And I have a lot of people that have helped me along the way learn how to work smarter.
Yeah, that's very important. Like I do believe also you have to have at least some kind of passion, maybe, because like you mentioned, if you don't even at least like what you are doing, you are not going to wake up every day like, I want to do this now. I want to do this now. You will wake up someday and no, I just quit. Yeah. This is what makes people quit.
Oh yeah.
Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of the unknown, or fear of rejection. These kind of things unmotivate people and make them want to just sit down and lay there and watch Netflix, I guess.
Yeah. And granted, there's days I want to do that, but usually I'll start watching Netflix and I'll grab my computer and I'll start working. So it's never really, and times that I just don't want to do it. Someone will write me and say, we want you to do this. And I'm going, oh, I'm retired. I don't want to work today. And they go, well, we're going to give you this much money. And I'm going, oh, I guess I'm working today. So.
I want to ask you a little bit about, let's say, burnout or maybe some kind of setback, because you mentioned earlier about Google Plus. So that Google Plus discontinued, like, I think 5 years ago. So how did you feel when you didn't have a following there anymore? You lost this audience there. How did you feel about that? Did you say it's okay, I will start somewhere else?
Well, it made me very sad because I lost over 1 million followers with one fell. Yeah. Luckily, I had almost 1 million followers with my other social media. So when I started having success on Google Plus, I tried to replicate it on all the other social media. So luckily, I had been doing that all the time that Google was in its death throes. I mean, because they were saying it was dead for about 5 years before it actually pulled the plug. So, I had been prepared and I had worked hard to get the rest of them up. So, when they unplugged it, it just, part of me just went away, because 1 million followers, that's a lot to lose in one fell swoop. But like I said, luckily I had built up enough of a reputation and enough of a following on the other social medias that I just kept going.
Yeah, exactly. This is what we were talking about. You should keep going, because if you fail, you must keep going. So now in your cooking, what is it? What kind of food do you like to make? What that actually really you wake up for to make the first thing in the morning?
Well, I like to make food that I like to eat. Fellow bloggers, I always hear them saying that they do SEO searches to see what they should cook, what will rank. And I've never done that. I decide what, in my experience as a restaurant chef, what do people like to eat? What do I like to eat? Then I make stuff from there. Then I'll go and search SEO and see what keywords I can add. I'm not oblivious to that, but I don't let that decide what I'm going to make. But lately, I've kind of stepped back because I was still in that mindset of a creative chef thinking I need to make this and artistic and I need to add this to it. I'm thinking, well, I'm doing all this, but people out there are going, how do I just roast a chicken? How do I marinate salmon? It's simple things that I take for granted. So I've taken a step back, and in between making some of the more creative things, I've started creating simple dishes, standard dishes, things that everyone should know how to make. And that way they can build off those dishes. Because I always think, start simple. I always tell people, start with something easy, be happy, cook it and have it taste really good. Because then tomorrow you'll want to go back in the kitchen and cook again. If it's a failure, you're not going to want to go back in. You're not going to be as happy to cook. So I'm following that, my own advice, and I'm starting to cook simpler things to put on my blog.
Yeah, I'm good. I can do scrambled eggs. That's it. So,
hey, that's more than some people can too.
Actually, yes. Like I think maybe if there is a stat, maybe more than 50% of the world population. Actually, so
yeah, which is good, or I'd be out of business.
Yeah. So what let's say some kind of resources help you out with your cooking. Do you really like to use, or with blogging, for example?
Well, I have people that work for me, that work with me, that help me along the ways with the technical aspects of it. I'm not very technical, so I have a company that takes care of all the back end of my blog. I have a couple SEO auditors that tell me, how I should write the post, or what kind of things should I be looking for and including, and what other work I need to do to make them seen. Because if you don't have, I can write a beautiful post, I can create an amazing dinner that people are going to talk about for weeks. But if I don't set it up so Google likes it, no one's ever going to see it. So that's the other important part of that. So I have the people that help me with that. So, there's a saying, it takes a village. Well, it takes a village to do the kind of business I am. I have virtual assistants that work on other things for me in different areas. And I try to give work that that doesn't bring me joy. I try to find people to do that work for me. Like, I hate Pinterest, but Pinterest is so important. So I've always hired people to do that for me. And that leaves me time to do what I like to do, to cook, to create, to take pictures, to do stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, if you're talking Pinterest, I actually seen your account. It's like Pinterest loves pictures of food.
Oh yeah.
So you have a good following there. But actually, I looked at your YouTube, for example. I would have thought that you are a chef, you can cook, because a lot of people now, like we mentioned, I only cook scrambled eggs. So a lot of people can barely cook. I don't know, and have their channels and big following on YouTube. So why don't you push more videos into YouTube?
That's a good question. It's not something that I've ever really worked at, and it's that, and that's probably why I don't do much on TikTok. I don't have a fear of doing videos. I have done probably close to 1,000 videos in total over my years with Google and different things, but it's just extra work, and it's one more thing to do. If I could hire someone to come in the morning and just video everything I'm doing, that would be great. It'd be very expensive, but it would be great. But I just have to get into that routine and that habit, and I have been out of that for so long, it's hard to get back into it. When I was on Google Plus, I was doing a lot more video work. I actually have a couple people that do video work for me of my recipes, but for me to actually go on and do more for YouTube and stuff, it's just like one of those tasks that I don't find joy in, so that's honestly why. I know I should, but knowing you should and doing it are two different things.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think that the most important thing to you now? Is it cooking? Is it this is your main focus, cooking? This is the only thing that, because like if you lost, for example, if you lost all the social media, let's say, and if you lost your blog, you will
Oh,
keep doing cooking, right? This
oh
is all.
yeah. Yeah. My wife can't cook, so I have to. If we want to eat, I gotta cook. So, that I gotta shop, I gotta cook, I do all that. So yeah.
It's actually interesting when it's like a lot of cultures in the world like have the woman do the cooking,
Oh yeah.
right? But it's interesting when the man he's the one is cooking.
Well, for years she supported me. She was the breadwinner, because in a restaurant I could make more money, but my life was not my own, and the hours I worked were horrible. So when we got together, I started working in management, and I worked Monday through Friday. I worked better hours, but of course my pay was cut almost in half because of that, because I'm not working in the profession that I could really excel at. I'm just kind of doing menial work and running a business. So she supported me all that time, never said a word. She was happy to do it because I was home with her. We had a quality of life. So when I started making money and I started being able now, I pay for everything because it kind of worked out that way. But if I would definitely still keep cooking. She's never been interested in, and in fact, her father had told her that she was going to end up marrying a cook because she was terrible at it. So that prophecy came true. It was either that or the mailman, and I always question why the mailman. Is just because that was the only other man she saw on a regular basis. Was the mailman. So it worked out, but yeah.
It was good. It was a cook.
Yes, very good for her. Worked out much better than a mailman.
Yeah, exactly. So, like now, do you teach, because you teach people like how to cook? Do you teach them in person or do you teach them online? How do you do that exactly?
I don't do a lot of one-on-one teaching anymore. The last time I did was actually in the school when I was running the culinary program, and then I was doing more videos. When I was doing on Google Plus, I was doing the teaching, but it's not something that I have time to do. People are always trying to get me to do it, but honestly, there's not as much money in doing that. My time can be more profitable. There's things you have so many hours in a day, and you can chip at every little thing and make a little amount of money in every little thing, or you can try and focus on the best thing that you do and work on that and make that best thing you do make more money than all those little things combined. So that's basically where I'm at. So part of it is I'm doing so well with my business, I don't need to do these little things anymore.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, like it's kind of like you're mentioning what they're talking about, the 80-20 rule. Like you put 20% of your effort and you're getting 80% of the return.
Yeah, instead of doing that other 80% just to get the 20%. And a lot of people unfortunately have to do that because they can never find that 20% that's going to give them all the 80%. And it's that hunt and peck, and they get so unfocused because they're trying. Part of the thing where I wasn't succeeding as a food blogger was when I was trying to be everything to everybody. I would see recipes on a friend's site and it says, oh, I need to make that. Or I'd see it here. I need to make that. So instead of focusing on what I was really good at, I was trying to do everything. So in business, a lot of times we try to do that because we're afraid we're going to lose that little bit of money that we need because we don't know when the next is coming in. But if you focus on that one or two things that you're really good at and you specialize and you really go after that market, pretty soon you're going to be at the top of that market, or you're going to be in the top 10% of that market, and you're going to be making more money because you've focused. So that's really what I did. When I started focusing on restaurant style meals and stopped trying to be everything to everybody, that's when I started to really be successful and make money.
Yeah, that's actually very important, is like to focus on one, maybe two, maybe three things at max, and really get to learn them very well and like you mentioned, to specialize in them, so you will be in the top tier of the people in the world that are doing this. Because like when you do something, you scatter all over the place.
Yep.
Like you get very little return, and your time, and you at the end of the day you are probably exhausted, and you're not doing anything basically with a huge return. That's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the fastest way to burn out, when you're trying to do too many things, when you're trying to do it all, and that's again where I try and hire people to do things that I can't do or that I don't want to do. If I always tell people when they try to get me to learn something, I go, that hurts my head. I don't want to learn that. It's just, no, do you know how to do that? Let me pay you to do that. Okay. That's how this works. You stay in business. I stay in business. We support each other.
Yeah. So let me ask you personally, what's your favorite food? Is it is it Italian cuisine, American cuisine? What kind of cuisine do you prefer?
I think if I had to pick one to eat for the rest of my life, it would be Italian. Okay. If I could only pick one. All right. I'm half Mexican. I love Mexican food, but if I had to pick one, it would be that, because that's what I've cooked most of my life. And that's really what I like. I mean, we did do a lot of traveling. I was a travel blogger before the pandemic hit, and I was being sent all over the world. And I love all kinds of food. I love food from every culture. I didn't, for a while, I didn't like Indian food. And then I found out I never had good Indian food. So once I started having the whole thing changed. It was like, all right, the problem is I have to find good food from each culture, and then I know I will like it.
Yeah, yeah. You need to find someone who's really cooking it very well, not just everyone, like you mentioned, someone who's in their game, who mastered that kind of food. Yeah.
Yeah, or not cooking for tourists, because a lot of times they feed tourists stuff that they don't eat, So so
yeah. So like you mentioned, what are the things that you are not good at personally?
Well, I don't like I said, I mentioned, I don't like to do Pinterest. I'm not very good at selling myself. I find it awkward to ask for money, and I find it awkward to make conditions. I've been getting better at that, but I've always thought I'd need an agent to do that work for me and leave me out of that part. I don't like creating videos like I mentioned to you. I mean, it's because it's just extra work. So I have someone I hire to do that. I like social media to a degree, but it gets time consuming. So it's not so much that I don't like to do it. It's like, then I will have people to help me with social media, just because it takes up too much of the day. And like when I was travel blogging, here's the perfect example. When I was travel blogging, I was making no money off of travel blogging, but people were sending me on all these trips and they were paying for them. So I was gaining the experience, but I wasn't putting any money in my pocket. Food was putting all the money in my pocket. So I was so consumed with travel blogging because it was new, and I was getting to see all these cool places and all these experiences, that I kind of forgot about the food aspect. And I just did a little bit. When the pandemic hit and we couldn't travel, and I had to start cooking every meal every day, within the first week, I went, I realized something. Goes, I like to cook. I forgot that I like to cook. So that got me back into cooking. So now, if I start to travel again, great. If I don't, I'm still going to concentrate 90% of my effort on my food blog, because that's what puts money in my pocket. And that's what brings me joy.
That's very important. So what would you advise people who want to be, let's say, entrepreneurs or business owners generally, and people who are now actually studying to be chefs and cooks? What would your advice be to them?
Well, for the ones that are studying to be chefs and cooks, the world has changed on how they do business. You have to know how to do social media. You have to know how to take good pictures, even if it's just with your phone. But you have to have some skills in those areas. I always thought about going into teaching just to teach that. I don't want to teach cooking anymore, but just to teach that. that's a big part of every business now. And this is advice to anyone who's going to be an entrepreneur. You need to really get focused on social media and imagery, because the picture says 1,000 words.
Yeah.
And if you have the place on social media to do it, then that's going to speak even more. All right. And you have to, the other advice I would give to the entrepreneur is, pick something that you really like to do. And I'm not saying something that no one's ever going to want, because, we all like to do things that we couldn't sell if our lives depended on it. But, something that, there's a market for, that makes you happy when you create it or when you do it. So there's some drive behind it. And the other thing is, don't be afraid of failure, because without failure, there's no success. You don't succeed unless you fall down a couple of times. I mean, nobody's going to hit it out of the park on that first try. Nobody's going to be super, every now and then somebody does, but for the most part, normal people, we get knocked down so many times that by the last time we barely says, all right, this is the last time we're going to get up. Hopefully that's the time you succeed. And I had, instructors throughout my life in sports that would teach me that. He says, you don't know when that next time you get up is going to be the time that you're going to do it all, that you're going to be successful. So you just have to keep getting up and keep trying. So again, without failure, there's no success. Find someone in that business that you might think is a competitor and have them become your best friend, because there's enough business to go around. And that person that does the same thing that you do has the same problems. And you can talk to them and you can build with them and you can learn from them and you can teach each other and you both become successful. So, that's what's helped me so much, is having other bloggers that I could talk to and other bloggers I could help. And even by helping people, I learned something, so it's a real good situation.
It is focus, consistency is very important. Plus having a network that will, if you don't succeed immediately, which most of people don't, you will reach your goal if you stay consistent with it and don't give up.
Yeah,
exactly.
And think long term. Don't make success has got to be immediate, because it's rarely going to happen. So think long term and set intermediate goals so that when you reach a goal, you're on the right path.
People need to get this idea out of their heads that they want everything right now, because the problem is with smartphones, these kind of things, everything is in the touch of a button. So it's so easy for them to get everything in a second. So they need to learn that to have to delay gratification, not to have everything at once. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and again, you just work for it. If you're just handed everything right away, there's no drive to continue. You have to have that. You have to build that hunger.
Momentum, and the momentum will come.
Yeah, and just keep at it and just keep having fun. And I'm telling you, when you're doing something you really like to do and you're making money, life is good.
Definitely, it is. Yes. So, Dennis, where can people get in touch with you, know more about you, see your cooking, and learn more about your recipes?
I am askchefdennis.com, and on social media, I'm Ask Chef Dennis. You can find me just about on every social media, even TikTok, although I don't have much there, as Ask Chef Dennis.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here today with me. It was fun and beautiful tips and awesome information you shared with us here. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on today.